500 update, stock deep diver. This is entertainment purposes only, and let's just get into it. So first of all, I want to show you something about why I'm bearish in the long term and not the short term. So first of all, in the long term, you can see, look at how vertical this movement is. It is a pretty steep angle over here, and it's pretty similar to where the market's kind of steep angle was before the crash. And so maybe the market feels comfortable with this. But in reality, when you look over the past 5 years, the market has not really moved that vertical. When it does move that vertical, it gets a correction. And I wouldn't even argue that that's much of a trend. That's just a few, I know we're zoomed out, but still. This is going for a lot longer. And so how long will it go for? I don't know, maybe a lot longer, maybe not. My only point is that's why I'm very nervous. And if you, zoom out, you can kind of start to see how big of an aberration this really is for this kind of steep movement. It really doesn't happen that much. We're really far from the 50-day moving average. But anyway, that's my kind of bearish, very simplistic view without going into all the technicals and the numbers and the Buffett numbers and all the rest of that. But I want to show you something more short term that you can actually use, and especially since I'm still bullish in the short term. So let's look at the S&P 500, the ETF, and these were lines we drew a long time ago. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about and how useful these Fibonacci numbers are. This was from a zigzag, these numbers, and you can see we drew 416. You can look at previous videos. All these numbers, as far as I know, are there. And you can see we've bumped up not only against this kind of green trend line where I was just marking off the higher highs. So not only did we bump into that, but we bumped right into our line, and we've been dancing around it. Now that's not odd, right? If you've been watching these videos, you know that the S&P 500 dances around these numbers, these lines, these Fibonacci lines. You can see over here in the short term, and what happened was we, once again, hit this trend line, came down and hit the previous line, and then we went back up. We hit this trend line, we came back down, really back down to this now becoming support. And yes, we broke it for a day, but whatever. And then we came up to the next line, almost, not quite. And then we came back down, almost, not quite. And then we came up, and we really blew past this line. I was a little bit surprised by that. But this 400 line, just to give you an idea, is not from the most recent zigzag. This 400 line really has to do with a retracement of the crash over here when the virus hit. So the 403 line, I guess, really is from back here. And so I thought maybe there's a chance that this is, I wouldn't say meaningless, but maybe it doesn't have the same weight as the more recent zigzag. Okay, that is getting a little too far into the technicals, a little too far in the weeds. My only point is, in all of this, that if we have a quote-unquote correction, right, a lot of people are really scared about this movement today, the negative numbers and the stock market now moving in the direction of earnings and all these other things. Well, it just might be moving too fast, too positive, too short. And so we could see it come back down to the 400, test that previous line. Much worst case scenario would be the zigzag previous Fibonacci number, which would be around 380. That would be quite a negative move. I'm hoping not, because we'd really have to break the 50-day moving average. And look at this, the 50-day moving average is lining up right with our line, right? So it's almost like asking for it to kind of dance back down here and consolidate, slow down a little bit before moving right back up. That is a very strong possibility, and it's kind of what I'm expecting, actually, to be honest. I'm kind of expecting there's a chance, not for sure, but a good chance that it'll move down, and that's not going to bother me. It might not even bother me if it goes down to 380. Why? Because that's kind of the pattern. It's moving very fast. I'm not going to be bothered. I'm actually going to think it can go longer and keep moving positive in a longer time frame if it kind of takes some breath, if it kind of slows down. Of course, that's not what people want to hear, but I think that's very true. Now, I want to show you something really interesting, especially if you've been listening this whole time. Thank you so much, by the way. Please subscribe and thumbs up. It really helps. I really appreciate it. I'm going to show you something that I noticed, in the past few weeks. I haven't done an update for a little bit. I apologize. But something I noticed and I've been keeping an eye on, and I thought this was pretty fascinating. I drew a channel over here. So let's ignore the Fibonacci numbers. I drew a channel over here, and you can see the S&P 500 has pretty much been following this channel almost since the recovery, since that I don't know, K, V shape recovery, whatever you want to call it. And you could draw the lines a little bit further back if you really want to. Now, what did I do for these lines? Pretty much what I wanted to do for the lines is I wanted to say, okay, if you broke the channel, it's going to suck you right back in. Where is that kind of line where that kind of happens? And you can see over here, it broke the channel, boom, really got sucked back in. Same thing on the downtrend. Once again, you broke down a negative, then we had a positive day. We did not confirm. We didn't have 2 negative days in a row. And so that's where something like this, is very important to realize that it's not trending down yet. You don't have a confirmation day. And so without that confirmation day, that's the type of thing that would say, well, maybe the channel's still not broken. And of course, it moved up. Once again, this is educational purposes, not financial advice. But you can see how amazing this kind of channel is for describing the S&P 500. I almost wish I knew about it a long time ago. And you can see it was hugging this upper line. And so people were expecting, really positive movements. And me personally, if it hit up too far in the positive direction, I was going to be ready to open up a put. Sadly, that hasn't happened yet. I'm looking for a situation like this where I know that it'll go down in the negative direction, even if the trend is still going to be positive. And of course, if it hits the bottom of the channel, that'll give me an opportunity to put in a positive option. Now, it'll all depend on the sense of everyone going. This might be a gamble because, of course, when it goes down, it might be the end of the channel and things might revert more to a more gentle degree and slope. So I'm not saying that's what you should do. And of course, it might revert to going down. All I'm saying is this channel has so far been pretty accurate, pretty amazing. I haven't seen anyone talk about channels like this, so let me know if there is someone. But I was just impressed. I was just amazed that as much as we've been using our Fibonacci numbers to trace everything, and they've been working really well, something as simple as this channel would also have done pretty well in the same kind of mindset. Now, I do want to say, I will admit that the last video I think I did was a little bit wrong. I didn't say it was impossible. Obviously, I said things go up, down, sideways, but I had kind of put my money on it moving sideways. I think it was over here, and that was because the 10-year Treasury I had thought was going to keep going up. I still think it's low, but look, we're hitting this 50-day moving average. You can see it popped up last time. Well, that happened again, especially with Janet Yellen's comments. The ADX, which is showing you a trend, is kind of resetting. It's kind of going down again. You can see how it was down over here and then it had a positive move. Is the whole thing taking a breath to have another positive move for the 10-year interest rate? Well, that would make sense based off of what we're talking about, the fact that we're hugging the top of this channel. Maybe it's time for a down. But, and this is the key, just because it hits the bottom of this channel does not mean that the ride is over. There'd probably be a lot of people who got knocked out over here or over here who thought the same type of thing. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm not going to get out of the market out of some of my options just because it hits the bottom of the channel. In fact, I might move more in the positive direction that, hey, this is now a good opportunity. So right now, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens over here. This is an important time. Are we going to go back down to 400, which would be, right around here at the bottom of this channel? And then I can put in some positive options, expecting this to possibly grow. Maybe it's the end of the channel, and things will just take a really bad turn. Possible. Or is this going to be the chance to get in, a good time by the dip, as they say? So I will kind of be waiting to see what happens with this market. If it shoots up, that's going to be my cue that I'm going to buy a put. And I'm not saying that's what you should do, but I'm going to buy a put. And even if the trend is positive, there's a good chance it'll revert back down. It could trade sideways, of course, back into the channel. I just, so far in the history, these real positive movements outside the channel get sucked right back in. So that's what I've been kind of waiting for actually to happen. I've been kind of hoping that it'll shoot out so I can buy that put. Nevertheless, if it keeps trending down, I might take that as an opportunity to maybe buy a call. And, I haven't seen this channel ended yet. I'm seeing a lot of positive signs. I'm bearish in the long term. I do think there's going to be a correction or a crash. But in the short term, I think that things are still positive. I don't know why everyone is so scared right now. Things have been doing just so well, and maybe too well, that, maybe people are a little bit too used to things just moving in the positive direction. But that's not what this channel shows, of course. There's a lot of negative downturns, but still a general positive trend. And so we're not out of that yet. Let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to break this channel crash? Do you think that we're going to keep moving, forward in a positive direction? What are you kind of expecting? What signals are you using? Do you think that any of this stuff makes sense? Do you want me to elaborate on anything? Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, always helps. And really, I'd love to know what you guys think.